Availability calendars are extremely useful, especially for property rental websites, hotel booking systems, or even restaurant booking systems. Availability calendars are an easy way to show when something such as a villa is available and or booked. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to build your own availability calendar from scratch. You can customize it as much as you want. And as you can see in this demo of what we'll be creating, you'll be able to scroll through the months. I'll show you how to set it up to display either anywhere between 1 month at a time all the way to 12 months at a time. You can block in as many dates as you want, and I'll show you exactly how to do that and tell you how to make that dynamic. And basically the booked dates will display in red, as you can see here, and the available dates will display in gray. And basically, for the purposes of this demo, what I've done is I've booked these, as you can see, I've booked in some days and made them booked unavailable days in these 3 months here. And if I scroll through, you'll see you can easily scroll through the months. It's a very attractive and modern availability calendar, and as I said, this is going to be a very straightforward and easy tutorial. Okay, so let's get started. Now, in this video, I'm going to be starting from a point where I've already defined my website within Dreamweaver, which means I'm ready to start developing my pages, my website, in this case, the availability calendar. Now, if you are not familiar with how to define your website within Dreamweaver, then please look in the description of this video, because I'll be posting a link to another tutorial where we cover defining your website within Dreamweaver and setting everything up. And that is a step-by-step tutorial. Now, however, if you have defined your website or you're ready to develop this, then that's great. Let's continue. Now, the one thing I will say is we are going to be, this is actually our first tutorial in Dreamweaver CC, which is the latest version of the Adobe product. And I will say that I'm a huge fan of the Adobe products as a web development tool. I just don't think there is any other better product on the market. I've always upgraded my copies of Dreamweaver, given I haven't upgraded, unusually for me, I haven't upgraded my copy of the Adobe products immediately this time, but I've always upgraded as I have now. And I will say that I upgraded my previous versions. I went from CS3, CS4, 5, 6, and to be honest, in the more recent versions, I didn't really see much of changes to the software. They might have looked a bit different. There may have been some new features occasionally here and there, but with Adobe Dreamweaver CC, and I have only been using it for a few weeks now, I have to say I've noticed a incredible improvement. The introduction of jQuery, what we're going to be using today in this tutorial, is massive, and I really encourage anybody who's kind of on the fence, make the change. Upgrade your version, your copy of Dreamweaver. It is worth it. This is definitely the best. If there was any doubt before, there is no doubt anymore. Dreamweaver CC is absolutely fantastic. It's exceptional. And I'm somebody that I spend most of my time in code view. I code pretty much everything I develop nowadays. But I have to say that the improvements made to the CSS designer, the various other inspectors and panels, and the introduction, as I said, of jQuery, it's incredible. It really is. And all the things that used to take a long time, everything is very quick, very fast, very easy to do now. So without any further ado, on that note, I will say that this is a tutorial, unfortunately, that you will need Dreamweaver CC for, because we are using a new feature in the Dreamweaver CC. So let's go ahead and get started in that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start from scratch. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call this calendar .php, and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this CSS, because what I like to do in all my tutorials is I like to just start from scratch, and I'm just going to create a very simple layout to actually insert the calendar into. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to come into code view, and you're going to see this is absolutely from scratch. I'm also going to create a file, a CSS style sheet in the CSS folder. I'm just going to call this master.css, and after my opening head tag, I'm going to link to my style sheet, so href, and just link to the style sheet. We want to reel the style sheet, and it is type text CSS. So that's very simple. We can now access the style sheet within Dreamweaver, and I'm basically going to first note in design view, you're going to notice that the cursor is kind of in the middle of nowhere. So we need to, that's because there's no margin. And this is a factor when we start trying to insert our elements, our HTML elements into the page. If we want to apply margins and things like that, that's when you're going to have issues. So first of all, we need to assign a margin. So I'm just going to target the body, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to set a margin of 0. And I'm also going to set padding to 0 too. When I do that, come back to design view, you're going to see my cursor is pushed up right into the top left corner. So let's go ahead and add some more stuff. Let's go back to my source code, and between my body tags, I'm going to create a div. I'm going to give this div an ID of holder, and I can save that, come back to my master CSS. If you come to design view, you'll see that Dreamweaver represents div tags with this kind of dotted line. If we put our cursor over it and click, it goes blue. That's our div tag. Now, right now, it has no CSS dictating how this should appear on the page or render out. So we need to add that. So let's come back to master.css. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say hashtag holder, which is the div tag I've created. And I'm just going to set a width of, I'm going to say about 980 pixels, and I'm going to center it in the center of the page. Basically, come back to design view, and you're going to see there's not much to see because we need to assign a height. And if we assign a height, let's say 600 pixels, you're going to see that appears on the page. And I do actually want to set a margin from the top and bottom just to make it look prettier. What I also want to do is I want to set a background color, and I'm going to set a sort of a light gray, I think, for now. And the other thing I'm going to do is, of course, I'm going to set on the holder div, I'm going to set the background color to white. And I'm also going to add padding of, let's say, 6 pixels. That's fine. So that's what we have right now. I'm just going to adjust this here to about, just to compensate for the padding. Now if we just launch this in our page, in our web browser, sorry, this is what we have so far. It's just a very simple website layout, background color, and a page. It's a div tag that we're going to insert our availability calendar into. So this is where we start using, and I'm just going to press F4 to hide the panels for now. This is where we start to insert our availability calendar. And this is very useful. And again, this is where Dreamweaver CC comes in, because if you come over to your insert panel and you select jQuery UI, you're going to notice that you have this option for date picker, and I'm going to just insert that into the page. And provided I make sure my cursor is in the correct within the div tag, I can click on date picker and it's going to insert that into my page. Now the one thing I want to note here is that jQuery UI, as I did mention earlier on in the tutorial, jQuery UI has replaced Spry. Formerly in Dreamweaver we had Spry widgets. Now we have jQuery. And it's a massive improvement. As I said before, the things that used to take ages are very quick now. Now, if we save this, it's going to create some files. These are necessary for it to function, so we're going to say OK. And if we actually look in our Files panel, refresh that, you're going to see you have a new folder called Spry Assets, and you have some various files Dreamweaver has created for you within that folder. So let's just load this out on the page. Let's load this out with Explorer. And right now, basically, we have a text field, and if you click inside, you have a calendar, and you can scroll through the months, and everything's fine. Now, this is meant for forms, but you can basically click on a date, and it'll insert a date into the text field. So you can kind of understand what it is. Let's close this because this isn't what we want, but it's basically the foundations for what we're creating. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the date picker. Okay, and then in my properties inspector, I get this pop up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check inline. And when I do, you're going to notice that the widget changes. I'm going to save this, and I'm just going to basically preview this in Explorer again. And you're going to see now that the text field has disappeared, and all we're left with is this calendar. And we can click on things, nothing's happening. The function and the purpose that this has now changed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close it, and I'm going to select it again. I'm going to change the number of months to 3, and you can change this to anything you want. I'm just going to load this in Explorer again, and you're going to see I changed it to 3 months, and now I have a 3-month calendar showing. And I like this. This is what I want to use. Now, you can change this to a full 12-month calendar, and that's fine. But I'm just going to stick with this for the purposes of the tutorial, keeping things nice and simple. One other thing I just want to note, it's always good when you create a page is to give your documents a title. So I'm just going to say calendar. And if you didn't know, if I just launch this again in Explorer, your document title basically is what appears here on the tabs within the web browser. So I named it calendar. That's what it is. And that's very important for SEO, which is search engine optimization. But that's a whole new tutorial. So let's stick with this tutorial, and what I want to just explain here is this is basically the calendar. So we need to block out certain dates because this is an availability calendar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, and I'm going to come into code view, and again my source code. And again, this is where I say it's really useful when if you are interested in web development to learn code, to learn HTML, JavaScript, CSS, PHP, because understanding code unlocks doors. You can do so much more than you could ever imagine by just learning how to code. Now, as I said, I've basically developed this from scratch. You've seen it. And the benefit of that is there's very minimal code here. Obviously, if I had other elements on the page, if it was a proper website, it would be a little bit harder to learn the coding that's required. But because it's very basic, it's just a basic layout, it's pretty easy to understand the code because the only code that's here is related to the calendar. So I'm just going to press F4, and that just hides my windows because pretty much now we're just going to spend the rest of the time in code view. So it's going to be a little easier. So the next thing I want to explain is here we have our head tags. In between this, we're basically linking to here's my style sheet, but here is the Spry assets. This is the jQuery the calendar requires to function. This is some JavaScript, Again, this is all required for the calendar. But down here we have the div. This contains the calendar itself. And here we have basically the JavaScript. Okay, so we're now ready to start writing out our JavaScript and the various functions that we need. So just what I'm going to do is I'm going to come within my body tags. I'm going to find the JavaScript relating to the date picker, and I'm just going to enter return a few times to create some space, because we have to write out a decent amount of code, unfortunately, perhaps. So what we need to do is we just need to create the initial dates that are going to be blocked out on our calendar. So we need to write var unavailable dates, and that is going to equal, and everything between these square brackets is the individual dates that are going to be blocked out on our calendar. So for example, today's date is the 4th of the 1st, 2015. And for example, if I wanted to have multiple dates, that's fine. So for example, if this was a 2-day period, I just enter a comma and new quotation marks, and for example, the 5th of the 1st, 2015. And I am going to come back and explain how to make this dynamic, for example, database driven, but that will be at a later stage in this tutorial, so just bear with me. Now, one thing I'll note is before the final date, so you could have 1 or 2, for example, but whatever date it is that's next to this square bracket, so your final date that's blocked out, do not insert a comma here, okay? Doesn't need it. So that's the first line of code done. And as I said, these dates are the dates that are going to be blocked out as unavailable on the calendar. So now we need to actually write our functions. So for example, here we're going to write function. Then we have to write unavailable date. And actually that shouldn't be capitalized, but we need to write open curly bracket. And what we need to do here is we need to say basically the format the date. So for example, day, month, year, and then we need to actually get the date. So we're going to say date dot get date, and basically this is kind of the format. So I'm just going to write this code out and then I'm going to explain it, because it is kind of complicated to do both at the same time. And finally, we're going to get the full year, semicolon. So, and it does tell me I have a syntax error, but it's just because we've created an if statement basically, and well, not an if statement, sorry, but we haven't closed this off yet. So when we finish the code and write more code, we'll sort everything out, but bear with me. So this is the first line of code we're really writing here. This is the function, and we're basically handling the date. We're getting the date, we're formatting it, and dealing with the format. The next thing we need to do is actually write basically an array. Again, I'm just going to write the code first in array, and again, date, month, year. Here's how we're gonna do this. And then unavailable dates, the same as -1, and we're gonna open up an additional curly bracket, curly brace, and if that returns true, and then and then basically we can create, we're going to say else, and then we'll return if it's false. Unavailable, basically. Semicolon, and then we can close that off. Now that's pretty much the main part of the JavaScript that we need to write. What we're now going to do is the initial function that actually Dreamweaver created for us. As you can see here, it's selecting the date picker. If we come up to the div tag, this is like the container of the date picker. So wherever you want the date picker to appear or render out on the page, just paste this code here, which is basically just the div tag. It's a div tag with an ID of date picker, and the JavaScript, everything deals with, as you can see here, it's targeting that div tag. So right now, so far, all we've done is we've set the number of months to 3, but we want to do a bit more. So I'm just going to say comma, and I'm just going to enter return because I'm just going to add to this. So I'm going to say before show day and unavailable. And that's it. That's the script. This is the entire JavaScript required to actually make this work. The final thing we need to do is basically the calendar is now set and programmed to return these dates as unavailable. But what we need to do is we need to basically set a different color for the dates that will be disabled. So we're going to come back up to the top of our document, and after the opening head tag, I'm just going to enter return, and I'm going to create a style tag. So I've opened and closed that up. As I did before when I created my master CSS and I created my div tags in the holder, and I changed the background color. The calendar, when you see here, it's linking to the JavaScript files that I explained about earlier. You can access them up here, just as you can access your own style sheet. So this is the JavaScript file, and here you have the jQuery UI theme, and you can actually change the CSS and change the design of it as you want. Of course, as you can see, it's quite extensive, so it might take you some time, but if you are interested in customizing it, you can, if you understand CSS enough to do so. So we're going to target some specific CSS rules, so I'm not going to try and explain that anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and write this out. So it's date picker, and greater than span, and here we just open up and close this curly bracket, and I'm going to come back to that. We have one more we need to target, and again, UI date picker td UI state disabled. Okay, and basically this is where we can define the color of the unavailable days, the days that will be blocked out. So I am going to set a background color, and I happen to know I want to make this a red color, so I happen to know that C30. And after whatever CSS that we define, we have to follow it off with a semicolon. And between these curly braces, I'm going to set the opacity to 100, and again finish that off with a semicolon. Now if I just get rid of these white spaces, basically we are finished. This is all we needed to do. So if I come back to design view, you're not really going to see anything, but if we launch this in a web browser, so I'm going to again launch this in Explorer, you're going to see, okay, and you can see for some reason it's not actually working. So I'm just going to come back and look at the code, try and work out what's wrong here. As you can see, I've made a simple spelling error. I misspelled disabled. So I'm just going to save that, and I'm just going through checking for any other errors. What tends to happen is when you are writing code by hand like this, you will find that you will occasionally make the odd spelling error, and that's usually what it is. And I can actually see another error here. I've accidentally pressed the wrong button on the keyboard. This should be quotation marks. I used exclamation marks, and because exclamation marks is shift 1. I should have pressed shift 2. So just correct that. And not that I think it wouldn't, I don't think it would actually be a problem, but here should be a capital U. So I'm just going to save that. If I come up here, preview in Explorer, there you go. So you can see that we're now, we've blocked out the days. And you can scroll through the calendar. And of course, these are the dates that we defined here. The unavailable dates, so the 4th of the 1st, 2015, so January 2015, and the 4th and the 5th. So we can add more dates here. So for example, let's add the 6th of the 2nd, 2015. And let's launch this in Explorer. So you can see that the 6th, which we define here, of February 2015 is now blocked out. So you can actually change the color if you don't want this to be red, and all you have to change is the background color here in the CSS. But you can see it's really simple. Now this is an availability calendar, so you might be using this, for example, for a property or whatever. What you might want to do is make this dynamic, which means that you have a admin backend. And we have a tutorial, I'll put this into the description as well, on creating a user registration system. And basically, you might want to create a registration system, an admin backend, and then you might want to create some kind of content management system where the user can block out certain dates. So you would have basically a table within your database which just contains dates, and the dates are blocked out. So I think this is a very useful tool, again, within jQuery. If you are trying to create an availability calendar, this is a great way to do it. And as you can see, it's just an easy way to display the dates which are available and unavailable. And it's a really, in my opinion, a really nice, beautiful, sleek, modern availability calendar. So and this is useful, for example, if you have a holiday home, a villa you're renting out, and you can block out the dates as you wish. So I think it's a really cool tool, and yeah, I think it's pretty cool. If you visit our blog, or if you look in the description of this video, there will be a link to a post on our blog where we've actually done a tutorial, a written tutorial for this tutorial. And here you'll not only see a detailed information about the tutorial, a link to the demo, we'll have screenshots, and you could even copy and paste the code directly from this blog post. In addition to that, there's also a link on our blog to download the source code. In the video description that you're watching right now, there'll also be a direct link to our official website, which is simpletut.com, and here you'll actually be able to download a copy of the source code for this, so you don't even need to follow along in this tutorial. Again, all you need to do is simply click on the freebies section on our website and download the availability calendar. In addition to that, we also have various other downloads which you can enjoy for free. In addition to that, we have various other areas of our website which you may be interested in browsing. We have additional tutorials including file upload, user registration, getting more Facebook likes, CSS menus, responsive web design, and much more, including PHP classes. If you find yourself requiring support at any point in this or any other of our tutorials, then please visit simpletut.com and click on the Ask a Question section. Here you'll be able to post your question, and a member of our support team will be more than happy to help you. And of course, you can also access our blog, where we have various other tutorials such as creating file upload, a social content locker to increase your Facebook likes, CSS menus, and many other useful tutorials and tips. If you are familiar with our website, I'd just like to take this opportunity to encourage you to visit our official Facebook page. There will be a link in the description of this video. I'd just like to encourage you to do this as much as possible, because it is your support that enables us to continue providing free tutorials, freebies, free downloads, scripts, all for free. And of course, if you are kind enough, and of course, at any time, if you would like to donate to our project, then there is a very simple and easy way to do that. Simply visit simpletut.com and click on the donate button. And again, all of your support helps us continue to bring you the free tutorials, support, downloads, scripts that you enjoy.